So let's get right into this video. Basically, a lot of people wanted to know more about DOGE, which is essentially a department used by Elon to create, emphasize, push efficiency. It is the arm of Trump. And the bottom line is that, it's making headlines because he's going to pretty much every agency, every, administration group, every, department and saying, look, we need direct access to your files. And I'm still waiting for like the big moment where he goes to the CIA and the FBI and all those places and gets those actual files. But what's really getting people up in a bunch is that he's gained access to the Treasury files, which is pretty much where the money comes from, where the money goes. And the whole thing here is that the United States spends more money on federal aid to all kinds of nations, many of which you've never even heard of, or many you probably didn't even know existed. And as a result of that, there's tons of money going out the door from our taxes that could be used for Social Security benefits. But the bottom line is it's not. It's going to help other countries all over the place. Now, helping other countries is super amazing, admirable. It is just wow. But it is also not the right move right now since we are trillions upon trillions upon trillions in debt. We can't even afford our interest at this point. So we are actually a quasi impoverished nation in need who can't meet its bank debts. So we kind of have to take care of America right now and get it on course because the standard of living for Americans keeps getting shittier and shittier as a result. So no matter where you stand, I think we all agree, and I think this is one thing that, Democrats, independents, and Republicans, we can all agree that the standard of living is not very good in America compared to what it should be. And we need to work towards that agenda. With that said, people want to know more about what will happen when Elon, through the DOGE, gets specifically into the accounting records for the Social Security Administration. Now, some of you are saying, well, maybe they can go ahead and just get like that, the Social Security Fairness Act going, and get those payments out. Nobody expected the Social Security Administration to release a notice that was going to take them a year to figure out how to pay people. That is absolutely ridiculous, especially when they were within weeks able to cobble together essentially the payment system that would be used for the stimulus checks for COVID. So something funny is going on there. And you might be seeing the Social Security Fairness Act list being created more quickly. You might see it take a full year, but the reality is that they should have passed that, the Democrats, early in 2024, which would have boosted their potential for getting additional votes. They didn't, though. The only reason that passed was that basically the Fraternal Order of Police went to Trump. They said, hey, if Biden won't pass this, will you pass it? Trump said, yeah. And then Biden had to pass it. And then Schumer had to get in there and make it happen. So people want to know, bottom line, that's what this video is about. What are the ways that's, basically DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiency, could go ahead and take away their Social Security benefits. So there's three main categories. A program interaction mistake. So for example, they could turn some part of a program off and it would no longer send out your payment, or there could be some sort of error in a machine that somebody would have to click a button on to get the payment to be able to go out. There'd be some sort of like safety feature, but a program interaction mistake, right? That would be way number one. Way number two would be a reassessment of your benefits that finds that you're receiving an improper amount. Okay. Now you couple these issues, right, with a super failing, not enough employees, Social Security Administration, and it can get spicy very quickly and it can put a lot of people out in the cold very quickly. So that's why it's a very, very touchy subject. It's something to worry about. So as a result of that, if they did a reassessment of your benefits, they found that you were getting too much, too little, right? There could be something that has to be clicked inside the system to go ahead and allow it to continue to pay payments. And that could be a problem as well. Although there are quite a few things in the program as safety features to continue the payment. Although, they have these little things that make it go to a manager for manager's approval and things like that. Now, the next thing, thank you, Theodore. This shirt I like a lot because it's crinkly right off the bat. And so I don't have to worry about, ever just ironing it. It's just because my personal life is a complete shit show. It is just trash. It's garbage. It's sad. But my professional life, amazing. It's funny. If you just spend all your time on one side of your life, you end up with only one side doing well. It's just funny how the math works out. The third and final category is a review with or without OIG in the mix for fault or similar fraud that results in the removal of your Social Security benefits, including retirement, disability, Medicare, spousal benefits, widow's benefits, or supplemental security income, or potentially even DAC benefits, disabled little child benefits. So a lot of people don't realize that there are a lot of ways that somebody could essentially get hit with fraud or similar fault. Similar fault is more along the lines of you omitted something, a statement that you made, left something out that you should have said, you should have known, that should have been included because it would have been material to the outcome of receiving benefits. Similar fault is a very gray area, but also easy criminal act for them to claim somebody did. So it's a little scary in that. But let me give you the definitions of fraud and similar fault. That way you kind of understand exactly what's going on. This is straight from the SSA website. Although I tried to pick definitions that were cutesy and not too legal, so that would be like more easy to roll into them. Fraud involves obtaining something of value through willful misrepresentation. In the context of our program, fraud exists when a person fails to disclose a material fact for use in getting benefits and payments. Information is material when it could influence our determination on entitlement or eligibility to benefits under the Social Security Act. However, similar fault is involved with respect to determination if an incorrect or incomplete statement that is material to the determination is knowingly made, or information that is material to the determination is knowingly concealed. So, the knowingly part is, they got to get around that. Material, they always, this is material. It's part of the 5-step sequential process. All right, let's define material. That way everybody's on the same board here. Material. Material describes a statement or information or an omission from a statement or information that could influence us in determining entitlement to benefits under Title II or eligibility for payments under Title 16 of the Act, so SSDI and SSI benefits. So it's not a high bar. Like if some group wanted to say that you maybe should have told them about something, maybe you posted something online, and they're like, well, you should have told us about that. Material is not, it's a statement or information that could influence us in determining entitlement to benefits. Not a high bar to jump over there. Like they can pin stuff on a lot of disabled people, especially. Let's go through what knowingly is defined. Okay. Knowingly describes a person's awareness or understanding regarding the correctness or completeness of the information he or she provides us, or the materiality of the information he or she conceals from us. Which I always say this, look, if you're going to make a statement, back it up with some other doctor, some objective group, a police report, whatever, that's going to back you up. It's crucial because once they get into hyper efficiency mode with the SSA, boy, let me tell you, all they've got to do is change a rule within the SSA to search through basically the government system that was massively hacked back in the day that captures facial recognition from the internet. They'll find basically your face, link it to your profile, and then all those images that potentially show up where it can tag you on a bicycle, you on a motorcycle, you in a boat, you doing this, you doing that. Real quick, you are likely to fall into a similar fault problem. And that stuff's coming because artificial intelligence is going to be sweeping the internet, sweeping the SSA system, and tagging your face into profiles of activities that you're doing from photos that get posted. I would not be surprised if 10 years from now, a lot of disabled people, when they go places, they have one of those face shields on that blocks their face. I would not be surprised because, to be fair, this is where it's going. You even see some of those people doing that in California because there's so many cameras in California with the cities that basically, find, register, etc., all the people there. It's a very different world in California. It's the privacy thing it's different, especially when you're out and about, Now, next one, definition of reason to believe. Reason to believe means reasonable grounds to suspect that fraud or similar fault was involved in the application or provision of evidence. The reason to believe standard requires more than mere suspicion, speculation, or hunch, but it does not require a preponderance of evidence. Okay. There's wiggle room on this one, but the bottom line is at the end of the day, if they want to nab you for similar fault, if they want to nab you for fraud, it's not a super high bar. It's not something that's particularly difficult. Thank you, Lady L, for the, that was Debbie for the nice haircut. Thank you. So with that said, let's talk about what OIG sees, because this is the standard. This is literally the rule book that Elon could potentially use through the DOGE. This chair is going to break. This chair is going to break. Look at this handle. This handle's gone. This handle's gone. This chair's gonna break. I have another one right over there too. So I'm gonna. I have to glue. I have to. I don't know. I got to do something with this. Anyway, OIG has fraud categories. So when they receive a heads up, your neighbor reports you and says, "I don't like how that person stays home all the time." Blah 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 blah. They're probably getting a check. I'm gonna. They do one of those, right? Here are essentially the categories that they put fraud into when your neighbor calls OIG. Okay, Social Security related scams, right? So disability insurance fraud, COVID-19 pandemic response efforts, supplemental security income fraud, retirement and survivors insurance fraud, Social Security number misuse, employee fraud, employee safety, whistleblower retaliation. Now, I want to talk to you basically about the different types of frauds that usually occur, the different types of similar faults that usually occur that potentially could be used by the DOGE to slim down Social Security recipients. Because think about it. What does the Social Security Administration produce, right? What products do they sell to make money? They don't. They take money from the working class, and the working class ain't doing great right now. And then that money goes into a couple of places, right? Special interest bonds, the trust funds, general account, right? To be flipped over and pay back to people. So what happens is, basically that money is their profit. It's off of the current working class. So like when you run into a retired person that's like, I paid for my benefits. No, you paid for the other guy's benefits that came before you. You could not pay for your benefits in today dollars. You would have to use new people paying in today dollars to pay for your benefits. That's because we have shit inflation, and the inflation's not good. Don't worry though, the government takes care of itself by giving you guys a shit show when it comes to the cost of living adjustment. You ain't getting a lot of the money you're supposed to. So government's got their hands in all the little social security pies. All right, so here are some examples of types of fraud that, it could cause a loss of benefits. Making false statements on claims. That's a very big gray room area, right? Let's say you have a good day. They take a picture of you, a video of you on a good day. All of a sudden, boom, false statements on claims. Concealing income. Because remember, the government is all about at this point, big IRS. I don't know what Trump's going to do. I mean, Trump is more about small IRS, but Biden was literally the biggest IRS that's ever IRS'd in America. And God, a lot of things that guy did were absolutely just not good for the American people. You could say, well, collecting taxes off of the working class, that's important. I agree, but having everybody be constantly audited, I don't know. I was just audited. I was just audited by the state. I ended up owing just over $70 because I don't make shit. So that's just one of those things. I don't make that much money, and all my stuff goes through the programs like ADP and the account and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, is what it is. God, when I got that back, I was like, wow, I must be a good, owner operator. Yay. And then I realized, nah, it's because you don't make shit. Yeah. So, anyways, it's sad too, because I win quite a lot of claims. It's just, the cost, the insurance for law firms is unsightly. It is horrific. And then all of the costs of upkeep and all of the programs and the server. God, the server to hold all those files in like a dedicated, oh my goodness, thousands and thousands of dollars just for the server, not the website, not the system, just the server. Anyway, so another one, hiding facts or events. So let's say, you put in the record you don't do anything for fun, but you actually own a fishing boat, and they catch a picture of you that's recent that, you can argue maybe it wasn't taken recently, maybe it was. Doesn't help if you have a new jacket on. Bottom line is hiding facts or events, okay? Failing to report information to the SSA. A lot of you guys, I love you dearly. You don't know when you have to call the SSA or send them an SSA 795. You just don't know. You don't know what you've got to tell them. You're all just kind of hoping that you're doing the right thing. You know what is amazing though? Like there should be a study on this. Why so many Americans get benefits, and then don't learn about the program and what's required of them. I don't know what the deal is with that, but there is just a really big thing here where a lot of people get benefits and they're like, cool, for the rest of my life, I'm just gonna, exist and not do anything. They're like, I don't have to do upkeep on medical, I don't have to do upkeep on learning. I'm just gonna be me. And obviously some impaired people, like, they're bedbound, it is what it is. This chair is gonna break on me. I can feel it. But the bottom line is, to be fair, like, it's just one of those things where people learn about when you need to report stuff to the SSA. Like, that's an easy way that they can McNab you, by going through whatever's available on the internet about you. Just take the time to learn that stuff. Maybe we should do a video on it. I guess that we should do a video on it. Misuse of benefits by a representative that is not a payee. Okay. So that falls into a lot of categories. Buying or selling fake or real social security cards. That's a big no-no. That is a big no-no. Does happen, especially with users and abusers. They sell their social security cards, stuff like that. Crimes involving SSA employees. The spiciest one that I think I see with that is where an SSA employee will create fake children, pay them basically survivor benefits, and then have those benefits be distributed to essentially, basically, that person. They might go through PayPal, a little bit of Zelle here and there, stuff like that. Next one, impersonation of a Social Security Administration employee. This one is rampant. You get a lot of people who will go ahead and call in to, or call some Social Security recipient. And that's the reason why is because Social Security recipients are de facto, no question about it, the fragile class. Mentally, physically, right? Even if you have a healthy old person, mentally, they're fragile because they don't come from the modern world of all the different fraudsters that are out there. So, some fraudster calls up and says, hey, you owe us this on a car. You owe us this on a that. You owe us this. You have an over, but you have to pay this right now. They fall for that stuff all the time, which should be blatantly obvious as fraud. A lot of the older and disabled individuals, they get caught up in it, right? Somebody, you owe us this money. I don't have the money. Well, you still owe us this money. And they play that whole game. Next one, bribery of an SSA employee. That is a rare one, but it does happen. There was a disability judge who was bribed by a disability attorney back in the day, where the judge was just auto-approving like all the claims. Next one, misusing grant or contracting funds. The SSA does give out grants, but basically there's not much money there. I don't think they're too worried about that. Next one, violations of standards of conduct. Again, violations of standards of conduct. There's tons and tons of standards. Tons of standards. What's an interesting thing is at some point the SSA may actually create a standards of conduct for disabled people, like what they expect from them, what they want from them, because they already have a bunch of rules that limit disabled people, not just financially, but like things that you can do, with alcohol, with narcotics, etc. So, from that perspective, they already have kind of like so I mean, creating a standard of conduct might make it easy for them just to bullet point out what you are and are not allowed to do, and you receive the benefits. Next one. Okay, abusing SSA employees. That's where you go into the SSA field office and you potentially threaten one. Not a good idea. You get barred from all the SSAFOs. Not that, I mean, to be fair though, you can't just walk up to any SSAFO and get in for the most part. You have to have an appointment because there's not enough employees working at the FO to really work with you. Although they do have fast passes for veterans, fast passes for people who are in a terminal situation, etc. Next one. Social security number misuse involving people with links to terrorist groups or activities. So this is something that we are seeing. We would have seen more of this, right? If we did fix this whole immigration situation, we would have seen people basically. So just for people who live in kind of like the baby wipe version of standard of how they could live their life. They're not living in reality. What happens in reality is that, and this happens in the Midwest. People who basically are part of gangs, people who are part of organized crime, will go and end a family. They will take the children, and what happens with them, and they will take the Social Security and basically all the information, and they will reuse. They will essentially have that as a for sale item, right? And so and this is a terrible way to think about it, but if you're an adult, you should know there are many parts to things that they can sell from a family that they take over. And if you haven't thought about that, it's because you probably live in a cuter version of, reality. I fully support you living in a cute version of reality. Unfortunately, many of us don't get to live in that. But if you are, it's blissful. Stay there. It's nice. Nice pillows. All right. Next one. Claiming children for Social Security benefits that are not yours. Okay, this is pretty common. SSA employees sometimes do it, and they get caught sometimes by OAG. People do it all the time. You get parents arguing this way, arguing that way over who's going to be the payee, who's going to receive the benefits. Claiming children for Social Security benefits that are not real or alive. This one's trickier, but it's done. It is absolutely done. The kicker is sometimes they are still alive. They're just no longer in this country. Next one, impersonating someone who is not real to complete a scam. Okay. So, for example, a classic one is this. You'll have a kid of a parent. Parent gets old. Parent passes away. Kid doesn't say anything to the SSA. Then the SSA will essentially go ahead and keep paying the parent's retirement benefits into the check the kid oversees. And then all of a sudden, 20 years goes by, and the SSA is like, "Hey, wait a minute. This parent hasn't been to the doctor in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. What's going on here? Hey, they won't, you won't make it 20 years usually, but they'll realize they're not using their Medicare, and that's a problem. So that is like if you're sitting there, by the way, and watching this show and you're like, my parent died. I still have my benefit. I still get the benefits of the retirement. I didn't tell them the parent passed away. Just realize if that elderly person is 90 years old and not using their Medicare at all to go visit a doctor, that is a very good clue to OIG, Office of Inspector General, that something is awry, very awry. Okay. Crystal Singley, thank you for the $1.99 donation. Super appreciate it. Love the little briefcase there with the happy signs. That's very cool. So, okay, next thing that you've got to keep in mind here. Let's see. Frauding a doctor to make them believe that you are more severe than you actually are. God, a lot of gray room on this one. A lot of wiggle room on this one. Frauding a doctor to make them believe that you are more severe than you actually are. Well, first of all, the doctor should be able to tell if you're more severe or not by doing tests. But if the doctor doesn't do the tests and then writes down that you're severe, then the SSA has to be like, "Hey, wait a minute. In the spectrum of this, how do we know objectively that the doctor is diagnosing proper diagnostic impressions because they haven't done the tests?" So there's a little bit of like, "Hey, SSA, y'all should have been involved with this whole thing to figure this out, because this doesn't all fall on the claimant here. The SSA has to do their due diligence as well." So anyways, frauding a doctor to make them believe that you are more severe than you actually are. Next one, frauding a lawyer to make them believe that you are more severe than you actually are. I'm going to teach you guys a secret here, a little secret of the industry. When lawyers interact with clientele, if a client is trying to aggressively, use those like parent demeaning tactics, like where a parent will be mean to a kid and the kid will then grow up and then try to be mean to somebody else because that's what feels normal. When that happens, yes, there's mental impairments. But when that's happening, that is usually because the claimant, albeit they may be mentally severe, right, from that PTSD from childhood, and that's other impairments as well for the mental. But if they're talking about their physical, about how bad they are, usually if you go look at the medical records for the physical are not as severe as what they claim. That is one of the classic under the table things that you learn as a disability attorney about claimants trying to basically slide in how bad they are, when in reality, they're not as bad as they claim they are. Just a little side thing for you to have there. Next one, double dipping. So let's say that you are receiving from one program and then receiving from another program, and they're stacked, but they're really only supposed to be combined and not stacked. So instead of, for example, I don't have anything here that can be used as an example. So instead of, for example, having two programs that equate to this, they're not supposed to be this, but they're supposed to be this. That's, now you're getting your double dipping. Next one, non-citizen benefit fraud. Yeah, so one of the big things about Biden's gig was that he was using a lot of DHS money to keep all these immigrants rocking and rolling in the United States, but he needed to switch them over to a longer term program such as SSI. So his second term, Harris's second term was going to be about basically changing the SSI limitations that they put in 1996 from the original 1970s Nixon, SSI stuff over and saying, okay, well, we're going to allow more of these individuals and more of these individuals and more of these individuals to receive SSI benefits. That was, Biden 2.0, Harris 1.0. That was going to happen under that, particular group. Again, I don't support any of these individuals for any of the stuff from you can have whatever political beliefs you want, but bottom line is this: SSI would have de facto expanded its definitions to include more non-citizens to receive as entrants, not just as refugees, not just as asylum seekers, not just as trafficked people, but additional people as well. And as a result of that, it would have been, made legal, but at first it would have been this non-citizen benefit fraud through Supplemental Security Income Title 16 benefits. So not a good thing, not a good thing. Next one, lying about residency. Boy, oh boy, where there are tens of thousands and likely more, and it's really not it's a shitty situation. Immigrants were basically putting down on their forms coming into this country that, a particular residence was where they were supposed to stay. And the bottom line is that they had thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people putting down the same address over and over. And the federal government was very heavily looking the other way. Again, bottom line is it was a brilliant tactic on behalf of the Democrats when it comes to creating future Democratic voters. However, it does dilute the standard of living for an American. So, you got to take what you want. You're either going to get more immigrants, they're going to vote Democrat, but then you have a decreased lifestyle where you just can't afford much and you're living in a less safe environment and a less active community because they're scared. Or you have, Americans first, where, basically immigrants are not as well off and, the standard of living for the Americans that are currently in the country do better. You have to pick which ice cream you want to lick. That's the bottom line. Okay. Next one, unauthorized direct deposit entries and change requests. So so the change requests are like, living addresses, like where you live, but unauthorized changes. So let's say somebody gets access to the SSA and they work with the SSA to change where your money is being deposited to, or they change where your check is supposed to be delivered to as, an actual mailing address. Those would all be versions of fraud that would essentially, the SSA would have to bag and tag and figure out how they're going to go ahead and fix it and figure out who you are. So, is what it is. Charlton Zimmerman with his no suit for us. There you go. Always a saucy comment. Anyways, next one. Okay, so abuse of totalitarian totalitarian agreements with other countries. So there are these agreements with other countries that we have when it comes to like sharing Social Security benefits. Some of the credits, if somebody has to move from one country to another, some countries we have an agreement with as to like where they're going to get their Social Security benefits from. Sometimes they'll get their old country's Social Security benefits. Sometimes they'll get their new country's Social Security benefits. But abuse of those agreements does occur from time to time. Next one. Third-party witness statement fraud. This happens where somebody will claim to know somebody, or somebody who knows somebody will, go beyond and say they're actually worse than they actually are, or they can't do things that they actually can. It's not a strong thing, but it's more like an auxiliary evidence used in a hearing or a trial setting to technically try to pull away your benefits. So I want to go ahead and just, kind of outline one additional thing, because these are the types of things that the D.O.G.E, basically through Elon's efficiency system, that they could use to try and take away your benefits. Now, what happens if they have options and they find something that you did wrong? Okay. So here, so real quick, and there's a comment in here I just want to highlight. Jan said, bottom line is if you have done nothing wrong, you don't have to worry. I would completely and utterly disagree with that statement. That statement is first and foremost in belief that the person knows what the rules are, which none of you know all the rules. There's no Social Security disability attorney on earth that knows all the rules and all the case law of every Social Security rule. We know all the SSRs, but we don't know all the case law interaction. There's no way. It's an ocean's worth of policy. It is an ocean's worth of law. It is an ocean's worth of experience of what judges might do that's outside of what the law is. Like the do what I say, don't do what I do stuff. There is a massive amount of Social Security rules and regulations. So you will never know what you are supposed to do and not supposed to do definitively. You might have some bullet points, and some of you don't even have that, but you might know some basics, but I invite you to learn more about what you need to go figure out and learn to protect yourself. Number two, since you don't really know what the rules are, is that you don't know where the bend or wiggle or gray area is on those rules. So you don't know what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do. You're not sure where to navigate that wiggle area. That's another big thing. So this idea that you just, de facto shouldn't worry. If I was receiving a check from the federal government that kept me alive, I would worry. I would figure out exactly what I needed to do to keep my benefits. You will, no matter what, and people who are watching this video will still do this no matter what. You will, no matter what, have people who receive a check keeps them alive, who will still not go to the doctor as a disabled person, who won't report things to the SSA that they're required to report, and they'll just float. They'll float until the SSA pulls their benefits from them, and then they'll complain and they'll call me and say, "What the F? What the hell? How could this happen?" And then I'll have that conversation with them about, "Hey, you had to do this." And then they'll say, "Well, I didn't know." And I'll sit back and I'll say, "I know. I know. I know." All right. What happens if you basically go ahead and do a violation here? Because remember, there's something you need to understand. There's three levels that OIG or DOGE, because remember, when DOGE really starts getting in there and looking at everything, they could be doing stuff with OIG. They could be doing stuff away from OIG. I mean, they could be pulling OIG people literally out of the building and suspending them. You know what I mean? Like you don't know what's going to happen at this point, which just everything's from what we're seeing high level officials from government agencies being walked through the front doors and being suspended and not able to access literally their account. So, it could be through OIG, it could be through commissioner, it could be not. We don't know. We don't know. But, the whole point of the DOGE is to find fraud, abuse, yada, yada. And I mean, the United States government is full of it. It is just a rat trap of muddy, disgusting payments going to people who, I mean, did you see the Lutheran church thing? Did you see some of the countries on the list receiving support that we're not supposed to be giving support to? It's a no bueno class 5 is what I'm saying. All right. So what happens? They can, as three options, take away your benefits. That's, they could also reduce your benefits. They could hit you with an overpayment. Those are kind of the less ones, the more like, thank you for not really coming after me ones. Then you got basically your civil penalties. Those are usually money. Okay. Then you've got criminal penalties. All right. So let's talk about the criminal penalties. Those are usually like, those are jail time, prison time. 42 U.S. Code 408 subsection A9. Again, 42 U.S. Code 408 subsection A9. Conspires to commit any offense described in any paragraph 1 through 4 shall be guilty of a felony, and upon conviction thereof shall be fined under Title 18 or imprisoned for not more than 5 years or both, except that in the case of a person who receives a fee or other income for services performed in connection with any determination with respect to benefits under this subchapter, including a claimant representative, translator, or current or former employee of the Social Security Administration, or who is a physician or other healthcare provider who submits or causes the submission of, this is what scares the doctors, by the way. It's the same stuff that they scared the doctors with all the pain medication stuff. This is how they scared them, by the way. Medical or other evidence in connection with any such determination. Okay, so basically, a healthcare provider who submits or causes the submission of medical or other evidence in connection with any such determination, such person shall be guilty of a felony, and upon conviction thereof shall be fined under Title 18 or imprisonment for not more than 10 years or both. Okay, so just to kind of have you understand, look, the SSA, from what I've been seeing, is getting more aggressive and seeking more aggressive, penal action, which is like jail prison action against people that commit stuff. Now, you guys are not usually, in the lawyer, representative, healthcare provider, doctor, specialist. You're not in those roles. So for the most part, you're looking at the 5 years and less gig. If you really, you do something wrong here, that's crime-based, right? But still remember, at the lower levels, you have an overpayment. All right, you then owe the U.S. Treasury. What is the worst type of payment that is due in America. Well, that would be called an overpayment due to the US Treasury because you don't have all of those legal protections that can help you when you owe the US Treasury. The US Treasury, I was about to say trumps, but I mean, that is the word, trumps other forms of defenses that you could use to try and legally protect yourself from, debts that are due. A lot of them don't exist when you owe the US Treasury. So the SSA has, Commissioner Martin O'Malley did an amazing job being more realistic with how they punish these people who have an overpayment. But the bottom line is this, essentially you could owe the SSA money through an overpayment. They could stop benefits for a certain amount of time, or they could pull benefits away from you and not allow you to apply for them again for a certain amount of period. And we've done videos specifically on all those things. So now, with that said, you get into civil, you start owing more money. You get into criminal, you're talking about years. Somewhere in that mix is how much time you're going to donate to some nonprofit group, community service, yada, yada. All right. So the bottom line is just to be clear, right? This is the model. This is the system by which the D.O.G.E. could go ahead and remove your benefits, right? The three categories, we've gone through them. The categories used by OAG for defining what fraud, what you did or what somebody else did that goes into those fraud categories. And then I gave you, I think it was like a 25 to 30 point list of the most common types of fraud committed. So you should feel pretty knowledgeable at this point about the general overview of what the D.O.G.E. could potentially use in conjunction with the SSA, or they could just get the SSA data, which they kind of already have through the Treasury, and then at that point, go ahead and just do their own thing, which seems to be what the D.O.G.E. is doing a lot of right now. When somebody gets in the way, pretty much they're out of a job. So anyways, I will catch you all a little bit later, but please remember to like and subscribe. We got like 1,200 people in here. It's 342 likes. Hit the like button. Give it a good like. You know what I mean? As for the people who disliked the video before I even started the live, thank you for caring that much about this channel. I don't know what the hell your problem is, but I love you anyways. Also, with that said, if you want to become a member, super cool, totally fine. The thing that I love seeing is on Google. So if you go to Google and you type in disability resolution law firm or disability resolution Florida, throw some stars up there. It always makes me feel better. It kind of like gets me going in the morning because I work really, really late and I need something to get me going because the caffeine just does not do it anymore. With that said, if you want to go ahead and ask me questions about disability, like a free session, we do those Mondays and Thursdays. I've been playing with the days. Mondays, I don't like because they're too busy and then it's hard to go live on Monday night. Tuesdays, I don't like because I can't go live too late because I have to wake up early to go to the homeless facility where I work with the homeless. So if you're ever wondering, why can't I get a hold of Attorney Hnot on Wednesdays? It's because they line up the homeless for me to meet and work with them. I'm working with the homeless. Now, with that said, Thursday I go live. I'm thinking about maybe like a Thursday, maybe like a Sunday gig. I don't know. We're playing with it. We're working with it. Also, if you need more than just a 5 to 7 minute quick question and answer through the live shows, then basically below is a mini contract where you can actually get a private session where I'll work with you, figure out the issue, and then come up with the solution and timeline of what you should be doing. One soft kiss. Thank you for the $10 donation. Thank you. Love the little pair. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Awesome. Again, thank you for all the people who donated, and soft kiss there for the donation. I really appreciate it because it helps me basically buy the gear needed to grow this. Now, a couple of features that you need to know. In the future, I'm going to be switching over this design to a triangle desk, which is going to allow me to interview people on this triangle desk. Also, I have a mini stage for halftime shows set up right over there where people are going to come in that are music, singer-songwriters. And in between shows, they're going to actually go live 3 to 4 minutes, play their song, and then boop, we'll go to the next show. This gives me a little break time as well. With that said, I will catch you all a little bit later. We're going to be going to the next video now, and I will put the link in the chat area. That way you know where to go. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will catch up with you later from there. Thank you so much, Attorney Walter Hnot, and I will see you at the next show. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.